Yes, good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Football Tribe GG channel. Robert Kesakos is the usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's a beautiful, sunny Friday morning here in Uganda. And yes, I'm 1 hour and 10 minutes late because somebody decided that I should be. I mean, yeah. Hi, LFC. Good morning. I hope you're doing well. I hope you did enjoy that victory for the for England against Wales in that friendly. But like I said, the international break is one of those that sometimes bothers us, especially when part of the reasons that we go into it is for so teams can play international friendlies, and this is just one of that. But anyways, in other regards, the FIFA World Cup qualifiers to continue from different continents. So perhaps the whatever is going on with other teams that are not engaged in the same should not sort of water down the purpose for the break itself. Yeah. So, anyways, it's a pleasure to be here on this beautiful Friday morning. This morning, we will be speaking about the interventions that are set to be made by the Ministry of Education and Sports in Uganda in regards to the impasse that does exist between the Uganda Premier League clubs and the Federation of Uganda Football Associations in the wake of the introduction of a new league format. It's something that we've spoken about, before. I've explained the details and the particulars of what that league format entails or what its scope is in regards to the context or in regards to what some of the modalities are, but also, might I note, before I proceed any further, is that in case we do experience a blip in our feed, please bear with me because I'm doing this without power, so I'm relying on another mobile device for internet. So, in case things do not work out the way we hope them to go, but anyways, it will be short so that for for both power purposes and internet, so that not risk having our broadcast interrupted. We'll keep it short. Anyways, like I said, that's where our focus will be this morning. So at we've discussed this at great length, so there may not be much need to sort of go back through every iteration of it, but just for purposes of a reminder for those of you that care to understand the context of all this and why we now have the first lady of the country who also doubles as the Minister for Education and Sports, with his with her counterpart, that's Peter Ogwang, the State Minister for Sports, set to intervene in the impasse of the new Uganda Premier League with that new format. Now, in the new format, like I've explained before, it is sort of similar, slightly similar. At the first round, it is similar to that of the UEFA Champions League, where the league in itself, that is supposed to have 16 teams, we have already a team that has objected to playing in that league format. So that means it would leave the team to 15 clubs. Nonetheless, if under normal circumstances, it's supposed to be 16 teams, and those 16 teams will play each other at least only once. So you either get to play your opponent away from home or at home, with some games being taken to a neutral ground, something that has equally divided opinion. Actually, I wouldn't say has divided opinion. It is something that many people involved in the game are really, really against in regards to the implementation of it, because it does rob clubs the opportunity of getting match day revenue, which is the bloodstream that feeds their circulation in regards to financial survival. So, for example, in the new format of the UEFA Champions League at the league stage, um, look at it this way, that, for example, a game between Real Madrid uh, and Liverpool that essentially would be hosted by either of the two will be, let's say, shifted to Parc de France, sorry, Parc de Prince, or to a ground like somewhere in Istanbul or to the Arianza Arena as a neutral ground, and then UEFA collects the revenue and then perhaps divides or gives back to to those clubs that would have participated in that game. So that's one of the shambolic things about this whole new league format. Now, in their way of promoting it under the guise of raising more revenue, they have shifted some games, quote unquote, double headers, as we saw over the weekend, one that wasn't played, that was slated to be between Kitara and Vipers Sports Club, and the other between Sports Club Villa and KCCA, arguably the two most successful clubs in Ugandan football as far as the league is concerned, met. And KCCA won the game by 2-1, of course, in an empty stadium. Now, had that game been at the Philippe Omondi Stadium in Lugogo, where KCCA host their games, which is their home, perhaps under a league different, the old league format, it would have been a totally different contest of the game. Fans would have filled that stadium, small as it is. I think at maximum it can perhaps host anywhere between 12 to 15,000 at full capacity, or even over capacity. Then alternatively, if it were to be Sports Club Villa hosting the game, like I've told you before, Villa keep shifting their homes because they do not have a permanent home. They used to pride themselves in having Villa Park, which was merely a training ground in Zambia, near the Uganda railways, and with that property was taken over with project development by UNRWA. So, anyways, without going into those semantics, so Sports Club Villa this season have the FUFA Kadiba Stadium as their new home turf. That's what they've registered to use as their new home turf. However, like I've said, in this new league format, which is similar to the league phase of the UEFA Champions League, that you do not get to play a round-robin format, that you do not get to play your opponents home and away, but you only get to play your opponents at least once, only once. Now, that means in the first round of this new league format, I understand LFC. I wish you the best of luck today at school and success in whatever you may get doing while at it. So thank you so much. So in this new league format, so you only get to play your opponent only once in the first round because the league has been segmented in 3 different rounds as opposed to the previous round robin that we are all accustomed to. Home and away, whoever accumulates the most points gets up to be the champion, and the bottom 3 teams, that's from 14th, 15th, and 16th, would get relegated to the FUFA Big League. All that goes out of the window. So now what they're saying is that those teams will play a single leg fixture, and then at the end of that, teams will be subdivided into 2 pots. Ideally, under normal circumstances, if the teams are 16, then it will be 2 pots of 8 teams each. Now, in the work that Vipers is opting out, that creates a new headache. You have the Group A having 8 teams and Group B having 7 teams, or do you disqualify Vipers and relegate them to the regional league and then you bring in a new team? I do not know what the semantics of that are. So, anyways, and then the teams go to round 2 in those 2 respective groups. Then that's when they get to play round robin. Now, whatever the points they would have amassed during the first round, that's all tossed out of the window. It was simply to determine who goes into what group. Then we go to stage 2, where then they play round robin in group B, which is the team that finished 9th and below. From the first round, we would have the bottom 2 teams relegated. Now, the top 8 also play their round robin, after which the top 6 teams then move on to play round 3. Now, in round 3, those top 6 teams will play again a single leg format, similar to that of the UEFA Champions League, to determine the top team who then is crowned the champion. Now, again, it's all very chaotic. It opens the window for match fixing, a whole can of worms. It robs clubs of, much needed revenue, with revenue sharing, with FUFA's greed for money. They just want to take money from clubs. I mean, clubs are already struggling with finances, and we all know that. So why are you trying to even take away the little that they receive? Now, because somebody is greedy, because they see maybe Kitara is getting some, 25 million shillings, sometimes 30 on a good day in a big game, and things like that. And then suddenly they want to persuade the country to believe, or the football world to believe, that suddenly these clubs are making lots of money. And that what that means is that they should be giving some to the federation, to the Uganda Premier League Secretariat, and then the revenue sharing model with clubs that they want to do. That if you host a game, then at one stage you take 85%, 5% goes to your opponent, 5% to the federation, and 5% to the Uganda Premier League Secretariat. And then further forward, I think that comes in, I think, is it round three? Then either round three or round two, one of those, then the revenues are split in the ratio of 35% to 35% between the home side and the away side. That gives you a total of 70%. Then I do not know what happens to the other percent. Anyways, all of it is in a way unnecessary, very, very unnecessary, in my opinion. So, anyways, so there's been that impasse. Like I said, Viper Sports Club, who are the reigning champions, who then you will be missing in this particular league, which they have introduced under the guise of increasing competitiveness. Unless, for me, in my humble opinion, it appears that the only competitiveness they want to increase is match fixing. Because I've explained this before. If you're a team that, because we know that different teams go into a season with different objectives. Now, usually in our context of the Uganda Premier League, only a handful of teams would wish to really win the Uganda Premier League. Why? Because of the cost implications that are attached to winning it, in which mean qualification to the CAF Champions League. So that I've explained before. I've explained the allegations that one of the team owners previously cautioned his team not to win the league when they were close to winning it. Why? Because of the cost implications that were to be involved if they had won the league. That would then take them to the continent. Now, to play continental football, that in itself would mean that you're going to spend a lot in our games, on player tickets, etc., the money you pay to CAF, and all that. So to avoid all that, you're better off not winning it. Maybe you come second or third. Now, in the same league, you have teams that are fighting just to survive, just not to be relegated. So there's those teams, because the prize money attached to wherever you finish in the table makes little difference in the old format. Now, again, the promoters of the new league format come singing high and mighty that the new league format brings money. And our question is, why can't you distribute the same money in the old league format? What is wrong with giving every team 80 million shillings in addition to what the league sponsor gives them, which is about 84 to 80 million shillings, which then gives this club a promise of at least 160 million shillings to go into a season. That's good money in terms of, helping with club finances, in terms of, salaries or allowances or everyday costs before they look at get collections, and things like that. So why can't you not give it in the old league format too? Given that money in itself, they are finding ways of stealing it, for lack of a better word. I'll call it stealing it. Because you're telling me you want to develop clubs, you want to promote the game, and you want to spend much more money in quote unquote and operational expenses than you are infrastructure. Because ideally, if you say we are going to be giving you this amount of money, let's say for the next 3 to 5 years, if that's the plan, that Maybe every season we will give you 200 million shillings. That, in my view, would be something. It's not sufficient, but it is something to start with. Or actually, if it were up to me, it should be somewhere to the tune of $100,000. That means you're spending $1.6 million per season on those teams. To what? That revenue or that money should say maybe 80% of it, if not 100% of it, be going to infrastructure development. That means acquire land, start constructing your own stadium. Whether it's going to be a 10,000 seater, a 15,000 seater, then that's capacity building. Two, if you want a 30,000 seater, we are all simply saying we are giving you that. If you can find other sources and add to that and do better, well and good, because ideally, in my opinion, this money that is coming in, whether from government or from wherever, being channeled through the federation, should be particularly tied to infrastructure development. Because we know these are the same clubs that have been mandated to run under 17 clubs, and they've partnered with schools. That in itself comes with expenses. The insurance for players in regards to injuries and health, that's a welcome idea. I have no problem with that. Very, very good investment. I have no problem or qualms, money being dedicated to that. That's very good. Money for promotions, for promoting the league and some operational expenses. I understand that. But that all quarry to be to the tune of about 2.4 billion out of the 3.4 or 2.2 billion, that's exorbitant. We know because in operation expenses and marketing, that's where some money gets to be stolen. And I'm not saying do not promote the league. I'm all for promoting the league across local, pay radio stations, pay TV stations to advertise games, put up the billboards, advertising the league, let fans, be going there. Let clubs also further promote their season tickets, their match days, and everything, club merchandise and all that, in line. In the wake of a Vipers boycott to the new league format, it has come to light that they did experience a spike in their club merchandise sales. And I thought that was really, really very interesting, and that more people are buying more of their, club jerseys and other merchandise. It's a very, very welcome sign, that things are happening in that direction, It's really, really, really exciting to see that. So, if you're the federation and the objective is to build capacity of these teams to make them more competitive, it begins with infrastructure. Once you have infrastructure in itself is an attraction. The federation knows this. There are people who come to match days to Nambole for the experience of being in Nambole as a stadium, as a place to go. You have those kinds of teams. Sorry, you have those kinds of fans. You have people who have gone to St. Mary's Stadium in Chitende just to have a match day experience, to see the stadium that Dr. Lawrence Munindwa has managed to put up as an individual, as an investor in the game. So people, FUFA didn't do much promotion for the Uganda Cup final between Vipers Sports Club and KCCA, but Kadiba was filled, So the fans are there. They do want to watch the game. And by the way, for somebody that has been following this league for quite some time, for over a decade, although sometimes at different frequencies, I know for a fact, and I'm sure numbers will back me on this one, that fans returning to the stadium was on an upward trajectory. KCCA was filling the Philip Omondi Stadium. That clubs at some point like Onduparaka were filling the Greenlight Stadium whenever they hosted games. That Kitara FC were filling their home stadium, especially when playing against the big sides. Now, in this new league format, if you're going to have a, a cohort of teams that are literally playing for nothing but survival, which you could argue would be lesser clubs, majority of which, who is going to watch a game between Bohimba and Calvary? I mean, they have their fans, but they are not many. But we know for a fact that when they get to play Villa away, their fans will be really, really looking forward to entertaining Villa at their home ground. That brings in numbers. So a lot of modalities are not right. And again, we've discussed all that at great length. There's so many pointers or topical discussions when it comes to the new league format. So many things that I, for one, disagree with. And the beauty of it is it's just not me. People have voiced all their opinions with all that in regard. So now it has come to light, and this is according to NBS Sport, that the First Lady, Janet Kataha Museveni, who also doubles as the Minister of Education for Sports, along with her counterpart, that's Peter Obama, State Minister for Sport, are bound to intervene in this new impasse. Like I've told you, Vipers opted out. They formally wrote to the Federation of Uganda Football Associations, the Uganda Premier League Secretariat. Some people are trying to sing praise, trying to sugarcoat, are trying to smear some nice Vaseline and lotions on this new league format, on how it improves competitiveness and blah blah blah. I mean, they are entitled to their opinion. It's just that the majority of football fans do not agree to it, you know. And it's only right that in a democracy, or if you want to believe it to be so, if majority of people are opposed to the idea, then why follow up in the first place? I know for a fact that the federation is at defense will be that 11 clubs voted for this, or 13 clubs voted in support of this. So, you know, the clubs are the biggest stakeholders, so they get to have their say. Well and good. Those clubs are the ones going to play without fans, and let's see for how long they can do it. You know, they'll know that it's a hot pan, one that you cannot touch with your bare fingers. I've seen one of the clubs being used. Allow me to use that exact language. That's Bull Football Club, who's apparently maybe is it the chairman? Is a member of FUFA, the FUFA Executive Committee. They've been using that to promote, to sing praise of the new league format. So Villa wrote to say that they will be participating in the new league format, but in protest, you know. So now, this is the women inside. I'm trying to find the men's football team, Bull FC, because I think it would serve the purposes of furthering this debate that we discuss this further, you know. So, for example, over the last couple of days, they were putting out lots and lots of statements from the Bull FC chairman, Mr. Ronald Barente. Mr. Ronald Barente, who is also, according to online sources, a member of the FUFA executive or something. And in some of his submissions, he did say, okay, I want to, yes, he goes on to say that about the new league format, FUFA brought a technical master plan in 2023, but the problem is that we Ugandans do not want to read. However, the plan included competition reforms where the new league format was part, along with mass football, etc. At the annual general meeting in Moroto, that was in 2023, Ali Muebe read the technical master plan, and everyone who attended the AGM accepted it. Now, this is where he contradicts himself. He's citing an annual general assembly that happened in Moroto, that was in 2023. But the Federation of Uganda Football Associations cites the meeting in Hoima, the annual general assembly in Hoima. So you can see that you already have two contrasting citations here. Now, that's, a one-off. Then he says, we were given time as club chairman and presidents to read through the plan, and we were given an email address to send our suggestions about it. However, only one club, KCCA, submitted their complaints, which were about sharing debt collections. The rest of us remained silent, and when FUFA brought the reforms to the public, that was when the rest woke up and started complaining. Yet they had not used the time given to them. Again, all nonsensical, in my opinion. First of all, let him show us the letter Bull FC wrote to the Federation acknowledging those reforms and consenting to them beforehand, before July, because they come to light in July. That's when clubs learn of them. And then, just because it was part of the master plan, again, FUFA needed to conduct stakeholder engagement. Where were the funds? Well, let him tell us that when that plan is introduced, FUFA invited the clubs to discuss competition changes that were bound to affect those clubs. 2, does he know or is he aware of the contract details between the league sponsor, that's Star Times Uganda, and the Federation of Uganda Football Associations as supervisor for the Uganda Premier League? Of course, in the ideal world, the Uganda Premier League would be running itself or would be under self-governance with supervision role from the Federation of Uganda Football Association. But that's all on the surface. Underneath, we all know that the Federation of Uganda Football Associations runs the league, literally. So let him tell us, because as per the contract, and again, I need to bring this up because this is a very, very interesting discussion. And people like Ronald Birete need to be reminded that just because you wish it to be that way does not necessarily mean it will be that way or that you're right, So, for argument's sake, let's assume all he argues is all right, Let's assume that all he argues is right, that these reforms were brought as far back as he suggests in a master plan. Is he aware that that article or item 2.11 of the contract between the Federation, between Uganda Premier League, between FUFA and FSLL, it says, and I quote, I'm reading from the document, and allow me read the entire paragraph for context. Tournaments/fixture amendment. That's the point. FUFA and FSLL shall confirm and inform Star Times in written the match fixtures of the Uganda Premier League and FUFA Big League at least 90 days before kickoff date of tournaments each season. In other words, the Federation of Uganda Football Associations and the league minors, that's FSSL, I think this is FUFA Super League Limited. I'm going to presume that's what it means in full, or stands for in full, because the league sponsors in Star Times are also the sponsors of the Tier 2 tournament. That's the FUFA Big League. So, according to the rules, or according to the contract, those two parties must inform Star Times 90 days prior to the start of the league, of the fixture schedule. Is that what was done? I'm not inclined to believe so. But anyways, we'll park that on the side. So, because this is at this kickoff, before 90 days before the kickoff of each season, so that the broadcaster organizes himself and releases his schedule to his customers of what games will be televised on their channels. Then, should FUFA and all FSS seek to amend the format, should FUFA or and all FSSL seek to amend the format of Uganda Premier League and FIFA Big League or match fixture. FIFA and FSL shall inform StarTimes in written at least 30 days in advance and secure approval from StarTimes. In other words, they should not just write to inform them of these changes in the format of fixtures. They should write to them seeking approval as league sponsors. Remember, these three parties signed a 10-year contract that has so far run for 7 years and has entered its 8th year with, the other 2 years to come. So this is the third last year, I'd want to believe. Then it goes on to say details of such amendments shall not be furnished to any third party before being furnished to StarTimes, despite of amendment whatsoever throughout the term FIFA and FSL shall ensure that no less than 16 clubs play in the Uganda Premier League. 240 matches are played each season, and matches per round are allocated to at least three different days, i.e. Tuesday, Friday, Saturday. FIFA shall ensure that no less than 26 clubs play in the FIFA Big League. 338 matches are played each season. Matches per round are allocated to at least 2 different days. Now, again, they highlight the days, Thursdays and Sunday. Now, the key part I want us to take from here is that despite amendment whatsoever, throughout the term, FIFA and FSL shall ensure that no less than 16 clubs play in the Uganda Premier League. So the objection of Vipers to play in the same league puts FIFA in a conundrum of finding a team that fulfills that, because they must have 16 teams. Now, Vipers is saying we won't play in that new league format. Again, all these changes were not communicated to the league sponsor. That's the other bad thing. So, if the Bull FC chairman, Mr. Ronald Barente, is telling us that Ugandans do not want to read, I'd want to ask him, did he read the particulars of the contract between the Federation of Uganda Football Associations and the FIFA Super League Limited? Did he read that contract? And does he agree that in implementing this new league format, FIFA have violated the terms and conditions of that very contract? I'll leave that at that. So, back to the gist of the conversation. Now, the First Lady is set to intervene. Now, this is, like I said, this is according to NBS Sport. I do not know at what level they are going to intervene, whether they're going to summon the federation officials, including the FIFA president, or they're going to summon the clubs, or I do not know, or it is just going to be a phone call giving directives. I'm not privy to that information. However, if I were to be them, first of all, I'll invite the disgruntled clubs, and this in particular is Vipers and Sports Club Villa. The reason as to why I'm adding Villa to the mix, even though they've agreed to play, but remember they're playing in protest. They wrote a letter to say they do not agree, but they will play anyways. So, but Vipers have objected. So I'll call those two, including NEC. Actually, NEC will be in addition. NEC is the other team that does not agree, but will play anyway, and listen to them. Maybe it takes an hour or two. I don't care. On the same day, I'll invite the federation to explain themselves why they thought they needed to reinvent the wheel. And they explain themselves. Also, I'd invite the league sponsors, StarTimes, and others, and other league sponsors that are involved. Now, at this stage, perhaps I would omit club sponsors to leave that between the clubs, between the sponsors and the respective clubs. They do sponsor. For example, Hima Cement, DFCU Bank are sponsors of Plascon. No, yes, I think they are sponsors of Viper Sports Club. The likes of Britam Insurance, Chint, that's the electronics company that are sponsors of KCCA Football Club, and that kind of thing. I'll leave that at that. And then, after listening to both sides and the arguments, I then bring them in the same room and say, I have listened to you, I have listened to you. This is what this one says, this is what this one says. This is what the sponsor says. The league sponsor would have to be at that meeting. You know? But whatever the case is, we shall all be waiting for the verdict. But then, the other key member that needs to be consulted, and I do not know how they will go about this, or whether they will even bother to consult them, that's the fans of the respective clubs. Whether you invite football fans in general, whether you invite fan representatives, although fan representatives are easy to compromise, I'd say send out an invite of football fans to go and consult them, because the fans are saying, we are opposed to this new league format and we shall not be attending match games. Like I said, you may have a sponsor, but all sponsors come because you have masses behind you. In football, it's just that simple, as usually is in any other business. When you have the numbers, then you attract the sponsors, because the sponsors see value in your numbers. And once you do not have those numbers, then that means your sponsors will no longer see value in you, because you've lost what makes you of value. I don't know if you understand that. So, for example, if I were to pitch to a company to be sponsors of a club like KCCA, I'd go and say, look, we average at least 10,000 spectators inside the Philip Omondi Stadium on every match day. We average. Of course, in big games like versus Vipers, Sports Club Villa, Express FC, recent times NEC or Chitara, given the rivalry that has been building up, we do average anywhere between 15,000 to 20,000. Those are my numbers. Then, online, I have at least 1 million fans across the different social media platforms. My games, out of the 30 games I play in a season, at least 20 of them get televised. So in other words, if you come and be and partner with me, your brand is going to be visible to all those masses. That's your selling point. In other words, you're telling them you have very many fans. So once you lose that, then you will have no leverage in the eyes of your sponsors. It's that simple. It's not rocket science. So, whatever the case is, I feel fans ought to be engaged at a certain point. If online engagement from the fans is anything to go by, and I'm not saying, and I'm not trying to say that there's 100% abscondence of fans to this, or opposition, 100% opposition from fans. But from what I've observed, majority of the football fans are opposed to the new league format. Then, just to take you back, you remember when I said under this new league format that the Federation of Uganda Football Associations has introduced these double headers at a neutral ground? What does that then mean for fans that are buying season tickets at their respective clubs? Because I know for sure that at Viper Sports Club and KCCA, there are fans that have season tickets. What does that mean for them? Because even at a neutral ground, you always have what passes for a home team. That's what makes it Chitara versus Vipers. Essentially, you're saying Chitara are at home. So if Chitara has 1,000 fans that are season ticket holders, what does that mean for them? And yet, at a neutral ground, you're requiring that they buy a match day ticket to watch their game. Because in the old league format, 16 teams, 30 games in a round robin. That means 15 games get to be played at home. So a fan buys a season ticket, guaranteed that they will watch at least 15 league games. Now, from my understanding is that that same season ticket will give you access to a match if it is in the Uganda Cup for as long as you're the hosts. Anyways, also go and digest that and let me know what your views are in reference to all that. But amidst all this, I do dare say that one, the league sponsors have been largely silent, and perhaps for the right reasons. At some point, I'd want to apportion a bit of blame to them because they need to communicate with clarity to their fans or to their subscribers or customers. Two, the Uganda Premier League chairman and the CEO, that's Adinaito Rugendo, I think is the chairman, and then the CEO, Baineman, all silent, more silent than a dead body. That's how silent they are. Again, conspicuous. Why are they mute? Why are they not speaking for the clubs they represent? Why are they not coming to speak for one of their members? Have they summoned their member who is in protest? Have they summoned their member who is in objection for a conversation? To the best of my knowledge, none of that has happened. But life continues. That Uganda Premier League secretary would also be one of the first stakeholders to invite Uganda Premier League fans to a venue to have an engagement, a consultative engagement with those very fans. Has that happened? Not to the best of my knowledge. It has not happened. So the question then remains, where does that leave league football in Uganda? I will not say the future is uncertain. Whether in the old league format, whether we revert to the old league format, or we go on with the new format, either way, football will continue. But it will not be the same as we have known it. So the intervention, and again, the other stakeholder that has remained silent in all this is the National Council for Sports, whose top boss, Bernard Ogwal, Dr. Bernard Ogwal, formerly worked with the Federation of Uganda Football Associations, I think under the reign of Dr. Lawrence Mlino. So their silence is also conspicuous in the matter. Now that the Ministry of Education and Sports is coming in to intervene, I hope FUFA will not consider it as government interference in football matters. Let's wait and see what their interventions will yield to. Are they going to force Viper's hand to play in this? Or they will agree with Vipers? I said yesterday in a forum that if, let's say, government or the Ministry of Education for Sports were to force Vipers to participate, one thing you ought to remember is that Vipers is an entirely private entity, you know, so they get to do as they please in how they run the affairs of their club. And for those of you that care to remember, Dr. Lawrence Mnidwa said that if need be, we would rather leave football. Now that will be very, very unfortunate for Ugandan football, because majority of Uganda Premier League clubs at least have a player or two that has gone through the ranks of Viper Sports Club. Right from their feeder school, which is St. Mary's Chitende, their junior team, which emanates from the same school, on to the senior team. So many players that play in the Uganda Premier League have at least one point gone through the football development of Viper Sports Club. So you omitting that partner out or killing them leaves a dent in Ugandan football. If you try to force their hand, they could choose to say, we no longer have the resources to sustain the club. So unfortunately, we will close it. Or the ABSCON games get relegated to the regional league, and just like teams like Shirayang, teams like Rweza, they wouldn't be the first club to, to die. Clubs like Kofi that we could only read about, UEB, State House had a football club, all gone. So they wouldn't be the first to go, and certainly not the last. So they could choose to take that direction, as would be their prerogative. But also, they did say that they are willing to explore all options available at their disposal before bowing out, even if it means going to the court of arbitration for sport. So, have we reached a stage to go that far? Maybe just not yet. I mean, one of the top bosses at the federation seemed to mourn about the fact that they tried to call Dr. Lawrence Mnidwa on phone and they could not get him. In other words, his phones went unanswered. Again, need we have to be reminded that it's not personal? It's all for football. Whatever happens, at the end of the day, football as a game should be the one winning. Football should be the one that is winning at the end of the day. That's the objective. Not individuals winning, not individual egos, or anything in that realm or in that regard. That should be the stance. That should be the case. That when all is done and dusted, we should be happy. We should be all satisfied at a certain extent that football won, not that individuals won. That should be the end result or the overall objective of all this. That at the end of the day, football gets to win. The only way football gets to win is if you have fans buying into whatever it is you zero down to. And as things stand, fans are saying it's a no to that league format. Can the federation swallow their bitter pill and say, okay, we will abandon this and go back to the round robin? If we want the clubs to play more competitive games, we are going to add 2 new clubs to the league format, the round robin league format. You see, somebody tried to mislead this country by making citations or drawing comparisons to the Scottish Premier League that has about 12 teams. Now, what they do not tell you is that in the Scottish Premier League, they also play a round robin. After playing a round robin, that's home and away. At the third round, where they play a single-legged turn, points for which are accumulated to all that they achieved in the round robin, is that the team that had the better performance against their opponent. So, for example, if you're Celtic and you play Aberdeen, if you beat Aberdeen home and away, or if you beat Aberdeen, or if you take 4 points of Aberdeen out of a possible 6, at the third round, you host them. And whatever those points you earn from that are added to your tally. You know? So, people are trying to mislead others with because of trying to leverage on the fact that some people are not well versed with the modalities of some of these things. So at the end of the season, the Scottish Premier League with 12 teams play a total of 33 games across the season. So why not have that if you want to increase competitiveness? Why not have that if you want to add more games to the calendar? I mean, you would have played 30 at the round robin level, and then you add on another what? Another 15. That gives you 45 games, which is too many. If you think that's too many, but still want to adopt a similar format, then reduce the number of teams in the top flight from 15 to 13. That means round robin, you play 24 games and another 12, giving you a total of what? 34 games. 36 games. There are about. So, why not? Anyways, allow me to wrap it here. It's already 11 a.m. and wish you guys a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you so much, LFC, for having been, for your contribution to this podcast. Thank you to all our new subscribers. I can see we've hit 1,906 subscribers. The goal, like I keep reminding you, is to get to 2,000 subscribers. For those of you that dedicate your time to watch our broadcasts long after they are done, those that have gone over to the channel and watched all that new content under the video section, thank you so much. Please go ahead and continue watching. It's good to know that you're enjoying it. Otherwise, have yourselves a blessed day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye for now.